Hello, my name is Rivas Mayoki, and I'm a philosopher. I do have a degree of philosophy, master's degree, I think. I don't know how that is translated in modern Bologna. Am I just a professor, or am I a master's degree? I will have to look into that. I'm so lazy. I never went around to adjust my diploma to modern standards of evaluation. I will have to do that. Anyway, today I wanted to say transphobia. Why? I already established that prejudices are the thing that is hard to eradicate from people, and that people are really fond of their sense of fear and fright. And in the case study of chimpanzee who lived in a laboratory and had no outer threats, that developed fear of doorknobs, and whenever the doorknob would turn, the chimpanzee would scream and shout and act like it was he, I don't know its gender, attacked by an animal, by an adversary. So in when you create too safe of an environment for any sorts of animals, human included, you secure the environment for developing irrational fears, phobias, because human mind is wired for survival, for struggle, for fight, for flight, for just all sorts of responses to dangers, to avoid them, to survive and not to be eaten. And when you create an environment, like our society struggles to create an environment that is really very secure, very safe, and without any obvious threats, you are developing a petri dish for fears, because people will develop fears to cope with the absence of fear, if that has any sense to you. And those fears, since they are irrational, will be triggered by random things and events. And when you trigger them, the response is the same as they were attacked by a wild animal, by a cougar, by cougar, by a bear, or by a tiger. So phobias are, I think, the plague of the future, because we are doing our best to make our society the safest possible, and for our children to practically grow up in bubble castles where they can't hurt themselves on any means possible. So in cases of developing phobias, our society, I think, is facing the greatest amount of irrational fears that we ever had before, because before people had real things to fear before, real dangers to face, and they had no such need to do invent fears. And among them, transphobia is the newest addition, because now when trans people went out on the street, in your screen, and on television, to show their true colors, that they are not monsters they are portrayed to be, people are afraid. And I think that they are genuinely afraid. And when you look back, you will see transcoding on the villains in most of media. And even now, if you get yourself streaming down the right tube, you will find people mumbling to their screens, and the worst insult they can have for a famous actress is that she's a man. And that's not an insult. Like, it's not an insult for a man to be feminine. It's just not an insult. But in our society, that was an insult for such a long time, that people, of course, are struggling to see people behind the scary masks, because racism, and that is not called race phobia, but racism, and I support that. I would much prefer that transphobia is not called a phobia because it implies that you are ill and it's not curable, and it's just an opinion that can be cured. But maybe who knows. Anyway, I think that for people who garner all sorts of transphobias, homophobias, and the such, would be in their best interest to avoid calling their state phobia, because they might face the future when they're be offered a psychological treatment for your phobia. Just saying, I'm not threatening or anyway encouraging that development of things, but things have their way of developing themselves. So anyway, just a piece of an advice to fearful people. What am I saying? J.K. Rowling rose the whole transphobia craze, and I went and read her manifesto, and it was just the mere androphobia. She's not transphobic, she fears men, and from her fear of men stems all sorts of prejudice towards trans people. And that's tiring because all phobias come into one and I have no solution. So now I feel bad that I brought up this topic. It's depressing. But what's not depressing is that we do take off more and more stormtrooper masks and show people it's not okay to shoot at these people, it's not okay to kill these people, and it's not okay to hate these people. Those are people. And as we strip down the stormtrooper mask that was serving just to dehumanize our enemy, to make it easier and almost fun to shoot our enemy, and that made their death a comic relief more than a significant event, um, more and more people are able to claim their identity and to be themselves without fear of abuse and expulsion. So transphobia is because people have to fear something, and you're just the mask they are accustomed to be afraid of. But we'll see. Phobias are something that arise within us, and it's an overpowering feeling. But when I fear dogs, I don't demand of the world to remove all dogs or to put all dog owners to one keg and not let them out. I manage my fear because it's my own problem. So transphobia, like other phobias, is the problem of its carrier, not of the target of it. And that is, I think, the way it should be treated. And stay safe. That is all I can say. It's too depressing to think of the numbers and statistics, and we are going forward and things are getting better. And be your beautiful self. That's it. See you on the other side.